coming out of WrestleMania 42, it seems like the Raw after Mania is keeping the tradition and trying to be one of the most stellar shows of the year. I think this was a really strong Raw right here. We got some NXT call-ups like we kind of usually expect after a big four in Ethan Page and Sol Ruca, and some really good segments here we'll get into. And we had some, I guess, more formations of kind of the world title and WWE title scene potentially. Just in general, a lot of like some decent, I guess, grudge matches. We had JD and Finn Balor kind of face off in a decent match that seems to be propelling the JD or the Judgment Day story with Finn Balor and that kind of portrayal that's going on. We had kind of Sol Ruca, like I said, challenging Liv Morgan in kind of an impromptu match that had Zarya kind of run in here to kind of have both their implications, which, you know, they still have some NXT stuff going on, kind of promoting that, but Sol Ruca will be coming up as well, so it's super fun to have her kind of reintroduce herself essentially to the audience against Liv Morgan, who people love, but is always a great heel that you can cheer against when you have the new kind of upcoming face. In a kind of opposite light, we had kind of all ego Ethan Page come out and fight Javon Evans and cheat to win, essentially being one of the more prominent heels obviously that will be coming onto the roster. Ethan Page is an awesome guy, so I'm super looking forward to what he does as well. A lot of heavy new generation presence here. We had Oba open the show and a Roman Reigns My Yard-esque kind of presence and promo here, where he kind of comes out, the fans are rapid for him, especially after the win that he had kind of over Lesnar here, and essentially just claims the land. He's now the ruler. That is it, mic drop, and is out. Essentially he has claimed that top dog spot, you know, and especially after essentially retiring Brock, you know, who's gonna reject him at this point, you know? So it was super fun to kind of have the show kind of open with essentially the alpha right now, someone who the fans are loving, and essentially we can't wait to see him mix it up with somebody. But I'm glad they kind of didn't pull the trigger on that yet. They kind of let him bask in the glory of defeating Lesnar. Kind of after that, you know, we kind of did get into Raw. I think the only negatives were that we kind of had we had Kabuki Warriors and Rio kind of fight in essentially, I guess, what was the burn off or blow off match essentially between this whole feud that happened. And it does feel like the whole time, despite this seeming to be the most over thing between Rio and the Kabuki Warriors, like it seems like we're gonna, with this tag win, kind of put everything to the side. And I think the Kabuki Warriors having like Io and Asuka not kind of fight at Mania was kind of stupid. Regardless, we did kind of crap on the whole build to Mania, so we can't kind of worry about that. This is kind of where we got the blow off for that. Hopefully this means that both, or like kind of the Joshi trio there, can kind of go off and do their own things. I think being in this vortex of like a forced tag team with Rhea and Io kind of actually hindered a lot of the potential storytelling that could have happened here, unfortunately. But maybe now with kind of Rhea going off to SmackDown, there could be more of a focus on specifically the relationship between Asuka, Kairi, and Io here, that there seems to be a lot more context for, than kind of shoehorning Rhea in here just because she's the most popular face kind of going. So I'm kind of looking forward to more of what's on the horizon than rather what we got in here in this match, which still wasn't bad, but you know, we'll kind of see what happens with that. Moreover than that, we kind of had, like I said, a Liv Morgan segment, like I said, with Sol Ruca coming in and Zarya interfering, which was really good. With both world titles, we had essentially, which was interesting, Punk kind of came up for his own segment, and you know, obviously was more thankful for the presence of being, you know, main eventing Mania. You know, he's not someone who's going to take his L's lightly. But Cody then comes out obviously bruised and battered from his WrestleMania main event, the victor. But obviously both of them looking at each other, you know, Punk kind of coming out in his dress wear, looking kind of pretty good, you know, kind of cheerful compared to Cody's kind of somber demeanor with the black eye, you know. There was kind of a juxtaposition there, and it seemed like Cody was trying to suggest that despite Punk losing, there's obviously some sort of contention there that, you know, despite Cody's W, you know, Punk is kind of the loser in this situation. He's being gleeful about it. Kind of out of all of this, you know, we kind of have a tease of Cody and Punk right here for the WWE title, because it seems like Cody kind of in vanquishing his demons and coming on top at WrestleMania, there's still some unsolved and unresolved territorial feelings he probably has about being the top dog in WWE, and I think that Punk kind of recognizes that, and there is kind of a potential maybe feud there, but I think this is just more teasing about kind of Cody's relationship with the WWE title and what it can mean, more than it is Punk and Cody potentially really feuding. Now to an actual legitimized, most likely going to happen world title kind of feud, we have Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu here, which I think is super fun. I think it's an excellent Backlash kind of main event to have, especially post Jacob kind of coming out of the WrestleMania match with Drew looking kind of unstoppable. It'd be super fun to kind of see Reigns and Fatu here kind of duke it out. The promo we kind of saw here tonight was super interesting. We had kind of a mini reformation of the Bloodline, it seemed like, between the Usos and Roman Reigns here, and Jacob Fatu kind of being the first person in line to want to contest that was super, super interesting. It became a whole promo about family business, as Roman was essentially pleading with the Usos to kind of regain their trust and work alongside with him in a relationship that's no longer necessarily one of the old bloodline, but one about mutual respect and understanding. With all that, Fatu does come in essentially and stake his claim. Roman doesn't say yes or no necessarily, but gives Fatu time to reevaluate his decision. And it seems like what he does want to do, though, is subtly kind of manipulate the Usos into goading Fatu into maybe not taking the challenge. There's a lot of questions kind of in the air right now, but it does seem like we're kind of reforming another Bloodline saga, and there's going to be a lot of webs maybe happening between Roman being on TV, the Usos, and the various kind of Samoans that are lurking around, especially with Fatu kind of getting this position right now. I think it's going to be a super interesting match too. These two can go, and I think the promo wise, like, Jacob cut a really strong and intense promo here about wanting to provide for himself and not necessarily wanting to be the tribal chief, but wanting everything the tribal chief has. Super great promo. And it gets me extremely excited for this world heavyweight title picture if Roman's going to be on TV and people are going to be coming to vie for him. Just similarly like when he had the double titles during the Bloodline run. So many of those defenses were awesome, and some of them we got on even free TV that were super exciting and exhilarating, because at the end of the day, I think Roman's one of the best kind of championship wrestlers they have right now as well, and he just is so used to and knows how to run that gauntlet that it's always going to be kind of a fun thing to see Roman defend a title. And I think with Fatu here, we're going to get a really good match, and I think a really compelling maybe layer to the Bloodline saga as well that we can see. So just overall, we had a really decent Raw after Mania here that I think in an era where the shows kind of sometimes do feel like just more advertising than they are like storyline pushing events. I think this Raw after Mania, they did have agenda here to kind of push things and push stars and push motivations forward to eventually build towards Backlash. So I think right here we had a decent Raw. Let me know what you guys kind of think of everything, what you guys kind of think of potentially Cody and Punk, and potentially Fatu and Reigns, and I'll see you guys for SmackDown on Friday and AEW this coming Wednesday.